Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Benjamin. I go by Benji to some, and after several delays, I know. This is my new web series and podcast, Benji Boy. This is something that I'm really excited to be doing and really excited to share with you. It's a way to bring together all of my great loves, movies, talking, and music. I'll explain more as we go along, but to kick things off, I'll tell you about this series. Every week or so, I'm going to analyze a movie, new, old, or somewhere in between, and lay out some fun ideas, little details, and see where it all fits into any of our current social conversations. I've always loved movies, since being the only 8-year-old that I know of to swoon over Titanic, and have probably watched an increasingly unhealthy number in my 27 years. So, I had an idea that it would be pretty cool to look at some of these movies for more than a weekend or an afternoon or whenever and get beneath the surface a bit. Movies and media, for better or worse, are what define our culture at this point in time, and a lot of them have so much to offer us in terms of talking points, personal interpretations, gauging society and politics, considering some out-of-the-box ideas, and reconsidering our core beliefs. Really just understanding each other a little bit better. That's what this show is. Another place to talk about movies, but hopefully from a different perspective. I hope there are some of you out there that think this sounds like a great way to spend about 40 minutes because I want to start some conversations. And for that, I have my website. That's www.thebenjiboy.com. I'm on YouTube, obviously, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Reddit. Links are all provided below, and all of these can be terrific forums to civilly talk to each other. I don't take anything I say as absolute fact, and neither should you. I cite my sources, I do the most thorough research that I can, and I provide information from people I trust. So, whatever I throw out there, let's talk and see where it all goes. I know I'm looking forward to it, whether or not anyone else is actually watching. Yikes. So, without further ado, welcome to Season 1, Episode 1, titled Reformicons. This week, we will be discussing the 2009 Oscar darling Up in the Air, breaking down its portrayal of capitalism gone awry, the downside of libidinous self-interest, and why Ryan Bingham, Alec, Goran, and Natalie Keener make a convincing argument for populist, nationalist, though not nativist ideology currently at the heart of the Reformicons movement. Before we get to the heavy stuff, though, there are a few items I will cover at the beginning of each episode. I have an extra side project I'm also very excited to share. I make music for fun, and I will be publishing some original material to the website very soon. So I will quickly, shamelessly plug any updates at this point in each episode for anybody who might be interested in following along. I post a lot of these updates on Twitter and Instagram as well. All of my socials, again, can be found below if you're interested. There are no updates today, but just a friendly announcement. I honestly appreciate any support in all of these new ventures. I mean, who says you can't do everything at once? Yikes. So, next up, I am a big fan of a lot of things. Movies, TV, music, and while many of you may not have the time or energy to see and hear a lot of it, I do. There is so much time when you have no life. It's cool though, it's fun. Anyway, this is a segment called What's What, where I will show off some interesting projects out there, one from film, one from TV, and one from music. Again, links to these projects will be provided below with each episode. So, this week from the world of film, there is a new Korean pick and very limited release from director Lee Chang-Dong called Burning. Burning is one of the best top 3 films I've seen this year. It's slow, it's atmospheric, but if you pay close enough attention, there is so much going on behind what you see. This film is all about inferred meaning. It starts off as a take on youth, isolation, and angst. But where it ends up is, well, a metaphor for modern life when opportunity and purpose are harder than ever to find and may require more than we're willing to give to obtain. A perfect match for today's topic as well. Like I mentioned, this is in very limited release, so check your local art house theater. If there is nothing nearby, I always advocate paying to see a film to support the artist. But find it. It's that good. In TV, Netflix has imported a series from Spain, created by Dario Madrona and Dani de la Orden, called Elite. Elite is Gossip Girl, but in Spanish and with far more social commentary. The characters are easy to fall in love with. Though on Netflix, they are dubbed with English-speaking voiceovers that are only a few times jarring. Otherwise, you can knock out this series in a day or two and it will have you in its grips. Murder mysteries, sexy boys, crazy twists, and just a touch of nuance. I have to call it Omar Ayuso and Miguel Bernardo, who played 2 boys coming to terms with their sexuality in very different circumstances. One poor, one rich, one Muslim, and one, well, not. These two shine, bringing complexity to characters usually portrayed in stereotypes and will have you shipping like crazy. Binge Elite on Netflix. Sorry about that. And music brings us a loquacious new artist named Alec Benjamin, a fellow Benji. He released his single earlier this year, Let Me Down Slowly, that is catchy and moving in a very earnest, very zippy kind of way. On his new album, just out this week, Narrated for You, he wears his heart on his sleeve, singing about love, heartbreak, growing up, handling depression and anxiety, and basically every other issue that jumps out to us young heathens just trying to figure things out. He's got a squeaky, high-pitched voice that is infectious from the first listen, and his melodies are sharp and direct, filling the lyrics with an energy I have not heard from a new acoustic artist in, a little bit a while. Buy his album, stream it on Spotify, and enjoy an hour of sweet melancholy. All right, and now here we are at the main event. So let me break this down for you. Every week or so, there will be a new episode. Again, about 10 days roughly to make these, a little bit longer. I do have a day job that may delay episodes here and there, but I want to give you the best possible, most well thought out product I can muster. So I hope the extra time will be worth it. In each episode, I will dive into a different movie and a different topic. Each episode will be based on an interactive essay that I also write, and you can read at, again, www.thebenjiboy.com. These essays are like the full-length version of what you're going to see and listen to here. I may throw in some new ideas in the videos or the podcast audio, but the essay will generally have way more information, links, and resources. So you can read the essay, watch the episode, or both. The essay will almost always be posted ahead of each episode. My goal is to have these episodes posted usually on Thursdays or Fridays, and the essay posted on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. Each essay and episode will have its own forum on Reddit, so you can go to Reddit, again, links below, and join the conversation, start a conversation, throw something in the thread that, is interesting and gets people talking. And whether you watch, read, or listen, that's right, the podcast is also available to listen for you audiophiles. I hope you will comment with something. Here on YouTube, on any of the socials with a reply, or to start a conversation with me or a complete stranger. I really want to make these episodes and essays engaging. I want you to connect with them. I hope that whatever I say, you're already thinking of a response. To anyone watching or listening here at the beginning, thank you for tuning in, and let's see where this takes us. It should be fun. The essay is up now to read, and this is Reformicons. This week's film is Up in the Air, a 2009 picture directed by Jason Reitman and starring George Clooney, Vera Farmiga, and Anna Kendrick. It was distributed at the time by Paramount Pictures, and while it was recently removed from Netflix, can be found on all streaming services, including Hulu and Amazon. Don't forget to join the conversation for this episode on Reddit and share your thoughts in the comments. Spoilers ahead, you have been warned. How much does your life weigh? Is this rude to ask? Probably. Allow me to explain. Anyway. Ryan Bingham is a traveling salesman and motivational speaker at seminars across the country, and this is his opening line. His usual audience, a room full of sad sacks down on their luck and in need of a good talking to. Ryan sells a very specific service. Prepare the newly unemployed for the emotional and physical hurdles of job hunting while minimizing legal blowback. Ryan fires people for a living. He's a talented guy. Ryan is a shining example of American capitalism at its most hedonistic. The salary? Check. Elite status? Check. The airlines and hotels he frequents on the company dime shower Ryan in special perks. Those perks, all at the expense of some middle managers forced to gather their belongings and exit quietly because of the economy. The year you see is 2009. The crash, the crisis, the Great Recession. Barack Obama has been sworn in as the change, and the American workforce is largely having the talk. Do you remember? It's not you, it's a housing crisis spurred by irresponsible lending and a whole spat of corporate fraudulence that has brought about the demise of the global economy? Talk? I caught a second viewing of Up in the Air recently, many years away from its December 23, 2009 debut. When I first saw this film, I was a teenager, starting college, barely any knowledge about anything. And yet I remember being captivated with this movie, me and $83 million worth of others. And I can honestly say Up in the Air has only become more prescient almost a decade later. I'd love to see Venom do that. Or would I? Perhaps a story about carnivorous symbiotes bringing humanity to its knees shouldn't be prescient, but anything can happen. So, in 2009, this country, America, was coming off that awkward mission accomplished stage and moving briskly toward its next phase, the end. Bum, bum, bum. Not many, mainly me, had any idea what was going on. Panic, anxiety, and a healthy dose of hubris across corporate America. The middle class was, well, screwed, and lender foreclosure, layoff season, and too big to fail became fixtures in an ongoing national conversation, albeit a very one-sided conversation. There was a lot of blame to go around. Go watch Margin Call or The Big Short for a perp list. Yet before Hollywood could get around to the blame game, a then 32-year-old director was daring enough to bring a book by the same name by Walter Kern to co-writer Sheldon Turner. Together they assembled a script that sought to find meaning in a shitty situation while the shitty situation was still happening. Aside from a few prophetic economists, anything anyone could have come up with would have been wildly short-sighted. So, for the sake of perspicacity, Reitman put aside the shitty situation and focused solely on all the shitty mistakes that caused it. Okay, focus now on the backpack. Let's shift our attention to the backpack. Up in the Air was a romantic comedy, a pretty darn good one, above average at the very least. Vera Farmiga plays the love interest, Alec, Goran, and a greener-than-kale Anna Kendrick plays the new kid, Natalie Keener. Once all these players start talking, and they are quite good at talking, Up in the Air shifts into a masterpiece that stirs restlessly close, as if reality is on display, as if everybody is scheming and breathing right at the foreground. We experience that reality head-on during those aforementioned seminars titled What's in Your Backpack? As Ryan, played by peak George Clooney, recites an ode to his captive audience, to us, of self-isolation, self-admiration, and self-interest.
In fact, let everything burn and imagine waking up tomorrow with nothing. It's kind of exhilarating, isn't it?
Ryan does not believe in possessions. He believes in wealth. Ryan Bingham is a shining example of American capitalism at its most hedonistic. So is Alec Goran. In fact, when they meet, they flirt via mentions of Hertz, Hilton, and Foamy, faux and homey hospitality, and Alec ends up, well, admirably sandwiched between two couch cushions. And with a tad less dexterity, Ryan makes first passing mention of... We're almost there, I promise. So, Ryan likes to speak from a script to anyone he meets. To the people he fires on a daily basis, he talks about greatness attained by failing, a change of perspective to ease the sting, channeling all that hostility into former ambitions. All the rest, they hear smug assertions about how life is better lived alone, without kids, wives, brothers, or sisters, just 322 days scourging other places of financial well-being, and 43 miserable days at home. Cut to Natalie Keener, who steps into the frame with this innovative plan to fling downsizing into the 21st century. One word, glocal. Another amalgamation, making what was once global, local. Brings us to a climactic head. Trust me, even though this happens pretty early in the movie, this is in fact a climactic head. Ryan is threatened. His way of life is threatened. No more living above the fray, literally. Now he has to drop bad news over Skype instead of those expensive face-to-face interactions. Natalie has some gall, I'll give her that. She's also quite endearing though, and she gets some legwork done for us. She demands to know about these miles. The miles are frequent flyer miles. Ryan has a number in mind of how many he wants to collect. 10 million. He wants them just to have them, wealth for wealth's sake. He is in this god-awful profession, reciting loner rituals, avoiding his family, and firing people for miles. He says there's a dignity in how he does it, but it becomes clear Ryan hardly cares about the people, only his own self-interest. Ryan Bingham is a shining example of American capitalism at its most hedonistic. Let's shift gears here. American capitalism is a staple of the 20th century. The concept, a free market and a free country where movers and shakers can move and shake in each and every direction. Since a little context barely even leaves a bruise, come on now, let's give it a shot. Yes, some context. Here we go. The economy was at one time based on hierarchy, monarchy, oligarchy, and little chunks of gold and silver. There was a dignity to it, but the whole system was wildly short-sighted. No optimism, no opportunity. The economy consisted of Europe, Asia, and other places until those lovely Puritans came over, set up shop, or as we would later discover, slaughtered everything, and paved the way for Adam Smith to start flirting with elitism via his invisible hand. Capitalism steps into the frame looking to get in on the action and rid all of those archaic practices to ensure that as the world grows bigger, it will also become smaller, bringing all countries to an even playing field where economies of scale shall prevail. Globalization, that's what that is. Industrialization accelerates the process, factories, automation, an unprecedented workforce, and just like that, the new world starts to look a whole lot like the American dream. Big business and hungry entrepreneurs are the new imperialists, and if we can crank up the speed a notch, the Archduke Ferdinand, a Great Depression, Hitler, Elvis, and Viet Cong bring us to 1981. The day, August 13th. The Economic Tax Recovery Act officially enshrines Adam Smith and his invisible hand, the prosperity awaiting libidinous self-interest, as U.S. law. A big whopping middle finger to FDR, social welfare, and the very concept of frequent flyer miles. It is the birth of Reaganomics. Reaganomics and Wall Street are sort of inseparable. I mean, they go together kind of like Ryan and Alex, a natural attraction that highlights the worst characteristics in both. Now, Reagan is hardly to blame for the crash, the crisis, or the recession. Except that he sort of is. Whatever you think about Reagan, 1981 has to be reckoned with as a nation. One nation. It was a point of no return. Past the point of no return. The climax to a century of misinterpreting capitalist principle, adhering to Smithian social Darwinism, compelling all the movers and shakers to forego their own humanity for a narrow, individualistic pursuit of wealth for wealth's sake, reached its head. Trickle-down economics, the heartbeat of the Economic Tax Recovery Act, rebelled against common sense. Tax cuts to the wealthy individuals? Check. To businesses too big to fail? Check. Family values as a tax write-off? Check. This left Democrats pissed, and anyone else who made a living off those big businesses now curbing government-issued profits instead of trickling, well, screwed. Why did I tell you this story? For the same reason I quite like Ryan Bingham's What's in Your Backpack seminar. A bit of foreboding. Sam Tenenhouse, in his essay for Time magazine, How Trumpism Outlasts Trump, writes, more than a decade after the subprime mortgage crisis, which triggered the Great Recession, many of those hit worst are still struggling. The recovery of the Obama years was oversold, and his presidency confirmed for many that the main constituency for both parties, Democrats as well as Republicans, is Wall Street. A stray victim of the Bingham method sneers, I don't know how you can live with yourself, but I'm sure you'll find a way while the rest of us are suffering. Now we're going to turn our attention back to Alex. Let's focus on Alex. Alex first meets the new kid, Natalie, just as Natalie is breaking down into loud, high-pitched tears. She and Ryan, in true romantic comedy fashion, have been forced into traveling together, and it's not going so well. On top of that, her boyfriend, Brian, has dumped her over text.
He broke up with you over text message?
It's kind of like firing someone over the internet.
Alex is enlisted to help. What follows is an exchange where Natalie gets real down on herself for not meeting an arbitrary collection of deadlines by her mid-20s. She followed Brian to Omaha. Now, no boyfriend. She would have shoehorned him into this list of requirements she has. Now, no chance. Ryan and mainly Alex both assure Natalie that all those things go right out the window after your 30s. Alex knows all too well about these requirements.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way.
Well, at a certain point, you stop with the deadlines.
Reaganomics and Wall Street unapologetically mutilated the American economy. Harsh, no? Except the real accomplishment, absolutely, depending on where you stood, was precedent. In America, what has and does matter is precedent. The Constitution was drafted 200 years ago by white dudes in wigs as a starting point, and we blindly obey that same document down to the article today. Globalization and industrialization set the world in a new direction, getting rid of that nasty old mercantilism, and we begrudgingly still cling to the economy that they both created. Adam Smith had an idea, another white guy in a wig, in The Wealth of Nations, the book he wrote. that fortune could favor the bold in a capitalist society, and politicians still think this idea and democracy are one and the same. Precedent is a dangerous precedent. Between 1981 and 2009 is a whole lot of economic and civil tumult cleverly disguised by First World superiority and Cold War ambition. The American dream, that strangely alluring, blatantly racist parody of itself by the 1950s, just watch Pleasantville or, call your grandparents, balloons into a strangely alluring, blatantly racist parody of Wall Street, the movie and the road. Irresponsible spending, investing, and lending disguised as a seemingly free market. Our grandparents established the precedent that we get as much as we put into the system. That's what they were promised, and what we should be too. But Reaganomics and Wall Street set the precedent that the American dream is only for those who can afford it. How does anyone reconcile the two? They settle.
How much did they first pay you to give up on your dreams?
27 grand a year.
Wow, that was depressing.
Alex and Natalie both have a vision of the perfect mate, except Alex is older, wiser, and we get her. We see where she's coming from. After all, she's dropping truth bombs left and right that essentially amount to what we all hold to be self-evident by, say, 26. Nobody can have it all, so have what you can get. Natalie has a height and hobbies and hair color in mind. Things we can assume Brian did not measure up to. And of course, a nice smile. Alex, well, yeah, those things are nice, but perhaps not an asshole. Perhaps he has a good family. Or perhaps he's healthy enough to play with his kids. Perhaps he makes more money than I do. You underestimate how important that is.
Yeah, nice smile. My smile just might do it.
And a nice smile just might do it. Let's crank up the speed again, just a notch, to the actual climax of the plot. Further along the timeline, Ryan, in true romantic comedy fashion, suddenly realizes he wants Alex. He wants a person. So he runs away from one of his seminars and goes immediately to a doorstep, a door. She's right there, behind that door. And she has shown all the signs, all the telltale signs that she wants him to. The door opens, and there is Alex, her kids, and her husband. Ryan deflates. His worst instincts might have saved him this embarrassment. Alex sends Ryan away, justifiably upset. I thought we signed up for the same thing. I thought our relationship was perfectly clear.
You're a break from our normal lives. You're a parenthesis.
I'm a parenthesis.
Alex Goran never really describes to Natalie what she wants or what's ideal. She describes in her own way what she's willing to sacrifice to have what she can get. Alex Goran is a shining example of settling. Yeah, that is depressing. Don't get me wrong, Alex owes Ryan nothing just because he shows up looking like George Clooney and wants to be a different person. But isn't it just a little bit heart-wrenching that in this story, this country, the only options we have are Alex and Ryan? Settle or self-interest? So, since we're playing with the timeline, let's jump around again. What exactly brings Ryan to this shitty moment? I'm going to read you another quote. Trump was in many ways a nightmare for GOP leaders from the start. For generations, the party has tried to reconcile its isolationist nativist bloc with its internationalist pro-market establishment. Decades of careful political management had maintained the uneasy peace between competing interests, with the elites offering their working-class brethren socially conservative policies in exchange for support of pro-wealth economic programs. This is from Beyond the Base, written by Brian Bennett and Justin Moreland for Time magazine as part of the same ongoing coverage on whether we should reconcile with the politics of Donald J. Trump. Ryan Bingham is clearly not the only jerk out there saving up at the expense of a few million others, and he's probably not the only one who's realized the error of his ways. Reaganomics and Wall Street unapologetically mutilated the American economy to the tune of billions for billionaires. No, it's not harsh. Why? obsessively deregulated business, identity politics, disproven trickle-down theory, unbridled, even encouraged greed and excess. When greed is lawfully good practice, when a democratic government forces citizens into a fallacy between pro-wealth and working class, self-interest and settling, when possessing overrides investing, and lending becomes a form of assisted suicide, when people are no longer valued as the people, that is one hell of a shitty situation. In 2018, the economy is doing well. 2009 has come and gone, and we learned our lessons and have moved forward stronger, older, wiser, or most likely, none of that happened, and we have rallied back toward precedent. If we continue that rally, someone, please someone, write down somewhere that every segment of the nation feels as if they have lost more. We have a very narrow outlook these days, where we view our fellow Americans without much humanity, and altogether as segments, stereotypes, ethnicities, religions, ages, any classification that strips a face of its nose, eyes, and ears, and never the same classification twice. Us and them. This is America. Where you live, what color you are, that decides if you can afford opportunities, if you can accept them, and if you can avoid settling, move and shake, have your voice heard, or lose it altogether. This is America, where we have reduced our humanity down to precedent, which is as foreboding as it is prescient. Ryan did what he did because just a few days before, his sister Julie got married to a regular guy, Jim. On the day of the ceremony, Ryan is pulled away from some free time with Alex to handle a situation. Jim has cold feet, and Ryan is the only one who can convince Jim that marriage is the right path. Go figure. Ryan asked Jim if he was alone the night before. Jim says, yeah, that he and Julie couldn't see each other before the ceremony. Ryan asks if it was lonely.
Yeah, it's pretty lonely. Life's better with company.
Life's better with company. It's easy to make the case for family and friends, brothers and sisters, but what about community or nation? Michael Lind, who we will talk about shortly, wrote in his 1996 book, Up From Conservatism, yes, one more quote, a one-nation conservatism in America would not be a vehicle for white resentment, even as they repealed affirmative action and racial labeling as offensive to the ideal of a common citizenship. Conservatives with the one-nation philosophy would propose new, race-neutral measures by which the government, together with business and communities, would seek to help the disproportionately non-white poor. What about population? Michael Lind is a prophetic economist and a conservative Reaganite. His book, An About-Face to the Republican Party, was picked up by the Reformicons and turned into a post-2009 grassroots movement. Reform corporate regulation rather than dismantle it. Tax credits on wages rather than increase minimum wage, local workforces rather than outsourcing, diminished free trade in favor of replenished stateside manufacturing, economic opportunity zones that would invest in communities rather than handing out welfare. Essentially, focus on your people. What is often overlooked with Adam Smith is that yes, he believed self-interest begets prosperity, but he also added in parentheses that those who act in their own self-interest will inherently act in the best interest of the entire nation. Prosperity begets prosperity. Focus on your people. Strengthen your ranks. Look out for yourself, look out for your own, and make America great again. We are well aware at this point that President Donald J. Trump is not a cocaine bender that half the country has sporadically embraced for an out-of-town 4-year weekend. This nationalist, populist, nativist presidency is the amalgamation of bad policy decisions, if not from the very beginning, at least since Wall Street skewed precedent. Focus on your population. Right now, everybody is shaking and moving in the wrong direction to have what they can get, what they were promised. Everyone is sure they have it worst, and something has to give. The Reformicons and their Lindian method prided themselves through the Obama years on their conservatism, not republicanism or liberalism. The Reformicons illustrated a one-nation approach to politics, not factions or segments, but American people for American people. The Reformicons put solutions before breaks, community above all else. They offered populism, nationalism, not nativism, as a means to an end. Life's better with company. It turns out so are economies. The Reformicons were steamrolled in 2016 when they failed to produce much of a candidate. All of their ideas were thrown out as idealistic, post-socialism nonsense. Not Sanders-style all-out socialism, not GOP-style close the ranks. And this was all done by some sad sacks, down on their luck and in need of a good talking to. Trump talked good. He talked real good. Okay, let's focus on Natalie. Let's turn our attention to Natalie. I don't want to leave out how her story ends. She leaves behind her life of firing people, though she was quite good at it, over Skype at least. She goes to San Francisco for a job she could have had from the start. She's asked why she would ever take a degree from Cornell and obvious smarts and go lay ruin to the Midwest, so to speak. Her answer is that the work was challenging. She's young, and while her first leap into the world was a little to the right, her next one might be right on target. Ryan, on the other hand, can only go back to the life he knows all too well. But if his headstrong days are behind him, maybe opportunity for change is what remains. He writes a letter to San Francisco imploring in true Devil Wears Prada fashion that the hiring manager should take Natalie on and never look back. It'll be the best decision he's ever made. The Reformicons are an interesting group because they see a leader who promotes some of their values in Donald Trump, if not their morals. They know this, and they see others cringing as they cheer him on, aware that he serves their self-interest, just nothing else. Up in the Air is a testament to family, community, friendship, decency, to populism, nationalism, though not nativism. And what it leaves us with in just under 100 minutes is an opportunity to change our perspective, both individually and by doing so, hopefully nationally. Shitty situations will keep happening no matter who sits in the Oval Office, or which political party currently holds a majority, or which class and color currently has it worse on American soil. What can change? Our perspective. One nation with many parts, one interest with many minds. The Reformicons can redefine American politics and economics. They just have to get past this whole Trump presidency. Their support of President Trump certainly does a disservice to their cause, but what defines the Reformicons beyond all the jargon and intellectualism and even a misstep or two is a willingness to meet somewhere in the middle and develop a plan that very well could redefine everything. Populism can work. The Reformicons have the right idea. Yes, historically, we have allowed only two options to guide us. Yes, we have made many mistakes, tolerating self-interest with complacency. Yes, Reaganomics and Wall Street could continue to ruin everything. It's now time to set the right course forward. Plan beyond this moment and think ahead. Pride in country, enough to demand more. A singular goal, that the economy reflect its society, not the reverse. Reform for the population, by the population, never in spite of them. If we continue to allow precedent to precede reason, we not only lose everything, we never get it back. If we continue to obey blind rage rather than common decency, we not only lose everything, we never get it back. If we demand that our country, this country, America, work for us rather than work within it, we not only lose everything, we never get it back. If we pursue self-interest in the name of prosperity, yet sacrifice our very humanity, we not only lose everything, we never get it back. If we forget to move and shake in each and every direction, and hold still in trepidation, gleaning, avoiding our own ugly reflection right on display, we not only lose everything, we never get it back. We are old enough to change. We are young enough not to fear it. I want you to try to help yourself, the soundtrack echoes. Sad Brad Smith cooing just as Ryan hops on another airplane to his next destination. And just like that, it clicks. How much does your life weigh? Whatever you put into it. Thank you for listening. This has been Reformicons. Let me know your thoughts on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or join the conversation on Reddit. Read the full interactive essay up now on www.thebenjiboy.com and leave comments there. I will do my best to respond to as many as I can. There will also be a Q&A on Instagram I will announce on the socials after the episode airs. I will repost some of the comments, my remarks, answer some new questions, and we can all talk for a bit. I hope you enjoyed this piece, and I sincerely appreciate any and all support. Like, comment, share, and thank you so much again for listening. And now, to close out the episode, I'm going to post one film review along with each episode. At this point, I will tell you about the film, what grade I gave it, and you can read the entire review on the website. This week's movie is Beautiful Boy, starring Timothée Chalamet and Steve Carell, directed by Felix von Groningen, and it's in theaters now and distributed by Amazon Studios. An excerpt from my review reads, "What Groningen has created is not a film exactly in the traditional sense, but an immersive reality where anyone can sit down and discover what it is to exist in mania, in a mess of mayhem. Beautiful Boy is a mess, all over the place, tonally inconsistent, resembling a social experiment more than the feel-bad hit of the season hinted at in early promotions. Even the final scene will send most viewers into a tizzy of, that's it? But the mess is precisely what sets it apart from narratives such as, say, September's A Star is Born, where the addict and his actions may surrender us to emotion, but not experience. I cannot recommend Beautiful Boy for the faint of heart, or even to those eager for masterwork from top of their game auteurs this fall. This ugly duckling, like its subject matter, is a personal choice, one where captivating and riveting, cohesive and emotionally stirring, have little room to take away from overwhelming dizziness and frustration." I gave Beautiful Boy a B-. Check it out for yourself and let me know what you think. Always happy to hear some more opinions. Thank you so much for tuning into this first episode. This is honestly a dream come true to be pursuing these projects and to be at a point in my life where I can do this. I really hope you enjoyed yourself. I keep saying it because I really mean anyone watching or reading or listening. You are so greatly appreciated. I'd like to keep this going as long as I can. The plan right now is to make these in seasons similar to a TV show. So season 1, I want to make 20 of these. That's the goal. We'll see how that goes. Like I said, I'm still getting used to the work level that goes into making these, so I hope to have a new episode up every 1 to 2 weeks. About 10 days is my average time frame I'm looking at. Follow me on the socials for updates like what the next movie will be or when the next essay is posted. Everything will be up there. Music, all of the stuff goes onto my social media. With Thanksgiving next week, actually this week, I will most likely not have a new episode up until November 29th. So let's talk until then. Keep conversations alive beyond this. Go out and talk to people. It's good for you. All links are provided below. Like, comment, share. Until next time, peace, love, and whiskey.